and I want to talk a little college football coaching carousel, just kind of rumors and innuendo. I've said it a few times, but listen, this is the time of the year that if you love the college football gossip, in Spanish we call it chisme, the gossip, the rumor, the innuendo, the message boards, the Twitter posts, this is the time for you. And we're going to focus on the college football coaching carousel here over the next couple minutes. Because at the end of the day, listen, we spent a lot of time talking Texas A&M, and I think we should. Texas A&M is very likely to be the biggest job that opens up. I know something crazy could happen. Lincoln Riley could go to the NFL. Jim Harbaugh, Ryan Day could go to the NFL. But for the most part, that's probably the biggest job that's going to open. But over the next 8, 10, 12 days, we could get a couple other jobs open up as well. And so what I want to do is spend a few minutes going away from Texas A&M, which we've spent plenty of time on the last 2 episodes, and focus on the other jobs that could be open and really just some of the stuff that's come out here over the last couple of days. The most notable thing that has certainly come out about any job outside of Texas A&M, it is the report out of UCLA. So there was a report on Tuesday night. Many of you hit me up. We actually have a very strong UCLA listenership on this show. Shout out to you Bruins, 8 clap, baby. And there was a report out on Tuesday night, credible site, one of the UCLA, I believe it's their 24/7 message or 24/7 website, basically that Chip Kelly is ultimately going to be fired after the USC game this coming Saturday. By the way, we'll preview all Saturday's games at the end of this segment, but I bring it up because it'll be a quick preview too. We're not going to spend a ton of time on these games, but I bring it up because a lot of you sent me that. Torres, what do you think about UCLA about to fire Chip Kelly? Well, what I would say is a couple things. One, if it does happen, I ultimately don't agree with it, and we will spend time when it does happen talking about it. The thing is, though, I am not totally sure that this is going to happen, and really for all of these jobs, but specifically with UCLA. For people who don't know, I'm not from LA, but I live in LA, and I spent a lot of time on the phones kind of talking to people in the know. Spoke with somebody that would know a lot about the situation at UCLA, somebody very plugged into the situation with that program and with that athletic department. And what I would tell you is, based on the information that I was told, I don't believe that Chip Kelly is going to be fired after the USC game. Essentially, what I was told is flat out this. I texted somebody in the know, basically asked him, what I really asked was, can you explain why this decision would be made? Because I fundamentally disagree with it. And what the person told me was, it's clickbait. Don't believe it. If something changes, we'll let you know. And so you could kind of take that insinuation however you want. I think you could take it as one way. It means he's absolutely not getting fired this year. Obviously, it's just one source, so I'm not reporting it. And the source could be lying to me. It could be somebody trying to send me off of the scent of this story. But what I really took that as is a couple things. One, I don't believe Chip Kelly is getting fired after USC. If I'm wrong on Monday's show, we will absolutely own it, but I don't believe he is going to get fired, okay? I believe he's going to get USC. I believe he's going to get Cal. And I don't necessarily believe that UCLA wants to fire Chip Kelly, okay? Remember, they are going into the Big Ten next year. And the thing about UCLA, keep in mind, the run game is pretty good. The defense is pretty good. And we think they have the quarterback of the future in Dante Moore. And so I bring it up because they weirdly, in like one offseason, kind of built their program like a Big Ten team. I think internally they feel like they will compete very well once they get to that league. And I just don't think you want to blow this up and start from scratch, coming off a 7-5, potential 8-4 season when you're going into a new league. Now, I will say, if they get smoked by USC and they get smoked by Cal, or they lose to Cal, I do think that conversation could change. And one game probably shouldn't change it. But as I said, the way it was kind of framed to me, if something changes, we'll let you know. And I think that change would be if UCLA gets smoked by USC, gets smoked by Cal, ends the season on a 4-game losing streak because they've lost 2 in a row, took a bad loss to Arizona State last weekend, and of course they would take a bad loss to Cal to end the regular season, then I do think the conversations would escalate. And I think Chip Kelly's job would at least be in jeopardy. But as of right now, as of this second, if I had to take a bet, if I could go to Vegas and bet on such a thing, I do think Chip Kelly will be back. And I certainly think, I don't think anything is going to happen with him this weekend. Again, if I'm wrong, we'll talk about it on Monday's show, and I'm going to have to own it. Let's keep it going, because while I think some of the Chip Kelly stuff has been overblown, it's very rare that in coaching stuff, sometimes I think a story gets a little bit underreported. And I think what's going on in Arkansas right now is pretty underreported. Sam Pittman, thank you everybody for your support of the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube channel. And we have a major announcement. The Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube channel has partnered with DraftKings Sportsbook and the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And here is the best part. Listeners of this channel, special offer courtesy of the DraftKings Sportsbook for first-time customers. Here's the offer. Here's what you need to know. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Bet just $5 on any game, and you get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you use the promo code TORRES. It really is that simple. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, bet $5 on any game, and as long as you are a first-time customer, you get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you use the code TORRES. Could be pro, could be college, could be basketball, hockey, football, whatever you want. DraftKings Sportsbook, promo code TORRES, first-time customers, bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Listen, everybody likes Sam Pittman. This is not a knock on him as a human being or a person or a father or a husband or anything like that. But Arkansas has been a colossal disappointment this year. They're currently 3-7. They play FIU this weekend, and then they close with Missouri. And obviously nobody expects Missouri to win. And I had been kind of told, so really the Arkansas situation, we've talked about it in kind of YouTube standalone clips, but on the podcast, I don't know that we've dove too deep into Arkansas football. But I bring it up because really, this is year 4 for Sam Pittman. First year was COVID, just happy to win games. Second year, you go 9-4. Last year, you go 7-6, I guess, when you win a bowl game. This year, you go 4-8. You end the season at 4-8 overall. You're 3-9 right now. That is a major, major, major step in the wrong direction, and really a 3-year cycle in which you're going in the wrong direction. And so essentially, I can be perfectly blunt with you on this, is that I've essentially heard since like September that Sam Pittman's, situation is probably a little bit more dire than people think. You go back to the Texas A&M game. That was kind of the first rumbling that I started to hear. End of September, it's a rivalry game that is traditionally pretty close and pretty well contested. They got destroyed by Texas A&M. And from there, it kind of escalated. A few weeks later, they lose to Mississippi State at home 7-3. And I think at that moment, a lot of people thought Sam Pittman might be gone right then. He fired his offensive coordinator. They come back. They have the great win at the Swamp. And you feel like, okay, maybe things are trending in the right direction. And then you proceed to get destroyed at home last week by Auburn and Hugh Freeze in year 1. And so I was kind of told, even coming out of that game, something might happen last weekend. I've since kind of heard the scuttlebutt that maybe out of respect for him, because everybody likes him, he gets till the end of the year. But I don't know that Sam Pittman, I don't think, if I had to bet that Chip Kelly was back next year, I would. If I had to bet if Sam Pittman is leading Arkansas out of the tunnel, if they don't win these final 2 games, I would bet that he is not leading them out of the tunnel to start the 2024 season. The bottom line is, like I said, you go from 9-4 to 6-7 to potentially 4-8 this year. It's just totally trending in the wrong direction. You're losing games that you should never lose. You lost to BYU at home this year. You lost to Liberty at home last year. You lost to Auburn in year 1 under Hugh Freeze, and they're going to get there. But to lose by 38 at home to a first-year head coach that inherited a mess, that is not a good situation at all for Arkansas. And so, again, I think out of respect for Sam Pittman, he will probably get through the Missouri game. I would expect to change after the Missouri game. Now, listen, they beat FIU. If they beat Missouri, then maybe the administration gives them 1 more year, whether it's changing the offensive coordinator, keeping Kenny Guyton, that I don't know. But I don't think he's going to be back next year. Like I said, I thought there was a chance it happened last weekend. Now I think he gets till the end of the year. But I think Arkansas is ready to move. I think they actually have kind of an interesting list of candidates that we will get into if and when it happens. I actually think Arkansas is probably set to open up. Last couple, West Virginia is a very interesting one. So when we did our preseason hot seat list, Neil Brown, in my opinion, was actually had a hotter seat coming into the year than Jimbo Fisher did. To his credit, Neil Brown, head coach, West Virginia. He's done a very good job. Remember, West Virginia was picked to finish last in this league. They're currently sitting at 6-4, and they have a very manageable final 2 games. Cincinnati at home, who's really bad. Baylor on the road, who's really bad. And there's a good chance they finish 8-4. They finish 8-4. Not only is Neil Brown not getting fired, he's probably winning coach of the year. So you have that dynamic of it. And I think even 7-5, you split the final two, 7-5 in a year where you're picked to finish last in the league. He probably keeps his job. If it gets to 6-6, then it sort of gets, we kind of got to have a conversation. But in my opinion, I don't think he's going anywhere. And I actually think, one, he's had a good year. Two, he's got a couple things working in his favor. Okay. And I don't know enough people have talked about this nationally. I know locally they talk about it every day. So if you're a West Virginia fan, don't get mad at me. I'm not saying that no one has talked about it. I'm just saying when they talk about this job, not enough has been discussed about these two things. One is obviously the buyout that has been discussed. Neil Brown, West Virginia would be owed $12 million a year. Now, this is in no way, shape, or form disrespectful of West Virginia or the school or whatever. $12 million is a lot of money for West Virginia to pay a coach not to coach. And then, as we know, be another $6.5, $7, $8 million a year for the next head coach. Plus, you got to pay any assistant coaches on multi-year contracts. And so they are not in the position, I don't believe, to pay a $12 million buyout unless it completely falls apart down the stretch here. The other thing that West Virginia, Neil Brown has going for him, West Virginia is almost certainly going to have to make a basketball hire in a few months from now. We know about Bob Huggins. It was talked about on this show plenty. But Bob Huggins is gone. And now because of it, you have a situation where Josh Eiler, great guy, he ain't going to be the head coach long-term. And so now you're going to have to go out, probably spend $2.5, $3 million a year to get a good basketball coach in the uber competitive Big 12, which is only getting tougher with Arizona coming in next year. And do you really want to pay $12 million to a head coach to go away, another 6 or 7 or 5 or whatever to a new coach, and then another 2? I know it's college athletics. I know we think the money is endless. I don't necessarily think that it is there. And I think even if you go 6-6, I'm not positive he gets fired. But you in one of those next 2 games, I think he's coming back for sure. Only other job that's kind of interesting. Listen, I don't think anything's happening with Billy Napier at Florida. I think he's kind of in over his head. I think the losses are bad. 700 yards to LSU, lose to Arkansas at home. First time Arkansas ever won in the Swamp. 280 yards rushing for Ray Davis. And the concerning part for Billy Napier, that recruiting class is falling apart. It was number 3 in the country. I think it's down to like 8, 9, 10, 11. They have lost 3 decommitments in the last 5 days of marquee players. Defensive tackle flipped to Georgia. Jamonte Waller, a 5-star edge, flipped to Auburn, and a cornerback flipped to Texas. So Billy Napier, everything's going wrong right now. I think he's got to get to signing day, hold on to that class. By the way, beat Missouri, beat Florida State. You create a lot of goodwill. But even if they finish 5-7, I think he is getting till the end of this year.